Good morning and welcome to JChats with Bender JCC CEO Josh Bender. Josh's guest today is Elana Fine, COO of BWG Wealth Management and moderator of an upcoming Bagels and Business event.
Good morning, Bender JCC community. Welcome back to another round of JChats, which is a weekly broadcast on Wednesdays at 10:30, where we have a chance to sit down with individuals in our community who are really making a difference. This morning, I am privileged to be with Elana Fine. Elana wears a number of hats in our community, among them being a member of the Bender JCC board. She's also a co-chair of one of our signature programs here at the Bender JCC, Bagels and Business, a networking program. Good morning, Elana. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's really wonderful to have you here this morning to share with us about some of the great things that you're doing in the Bender JCC community. I wanted to start this morning just a little bit about you and your background, how you got connected to the Bender JCC, where you got your start. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. So I, like many members of the JCC community, was connected when my kids were very little. I had joined the Mommy and Me play group for my 3-month-old twins, Ari and Julia, and we had just moved to the community probably a few, 6 months before the kids were born, and didn't know many people, and people said go check out Mommy and Me at the JCC. So I wheeled my very big stroller into into the center and started on my journey there.
It's amazing. And I hear that story so many times from members of our community who found their way into the Bender JCC community with their children through our preschool program. And it was the beginning of a lifelong journey. So you have over time gone from Bender JCC preschool parent and taken on a number of leadership roles in our community. And of course, you're a member of the Bender JCC board. How did you first get involved in leadership? How did you go from parent to?
Yeah, so I actually would say, like you said, my kids had gone to the preschool day camp, and at the time, while I was really involved, had been asked to be on the board. But at that point, I had 2 young twins and was starting in a new job and doing a bunch of things, and it was just too much kind of for my plate. But I was lucky to be asked again. Sometimes you don't get lucky enough to be asked again. My 5 or 6 years ago, my kids were older, because I think, if I remember correctly, when Arthur Paul had asked me, was to they were looking for people with more business background to be on the board, because we were wanted to make sure we were focusing more on our core businesses and their and looking at, even though we're a nonprofit, making sure that we were focusing on the JCC as a business as well. And so I think that's why they asked me to join. I got in leadership. I think because I had a lot of opinions on things, but I really felt like it was something I really wanted to dig into. Kind of just the JCC is a big board. We have almost 30 board members, and so as I just started to get more involved on some committees and kind of do the work, I was invited to go to a leadership training as part of the JCCA biennial in Memphis a couple years ago, and that's kind of where I started my path. Became involved with the executive committee of the board, and also the Bagels and Business, as well as worked on our strategic plan.
Excellent. Well, I'm very glad that they were persistent and they kept coming back to ask you to get involved. And you've been a tremendous support of mine in my beginning months at the Bender JCC. So let's shift a little bit. So I know one of the ways that board members stay active and engaged in the community is through committee work, right? And I'm very involved as co-chair of Bagels and Business, one of our signature programs here at the Bender JCC. Tell us why you chose to get involved with Bagels and Business and how that came about.
Yes, so we were, it's sometimes hard to kind of remember the beginnings of things, but we were looking for, as a board, looking for a way to, at that point, actually connect with younger professionals. So we got a couple pivots along the way, but we had all these young professionals, married families coming in, bringing their kids in the morning to the JCC, and they weren't as connected with other programs within the JCC. We also saw this need that we weren't really that engaged in the business community, which seemed kind of surprising, given how many members of the JCC, members of the Jewish community, are also business leaders. So we were trying to find that, connection. And at the same time, David Trone had reached out and was, at the time, I think of his campaign, was looking to connect with the community, as well, because he had some connections to the Jewish community. So we said, wait, we kind of already were looking for an event that could serve this community, and here we have this great potential first speaker. Let's start putting something together. And I always love programs with alliteration, so we came up with Bagels and Business. And I can't remember correctly, but I think we had probably 50, 60 people who attended that first event.
That's amazing. And it's interesting. I think about all the networking opportunities that I've had in my career over 20 years, and how some of those relationships that I formed really helped me to grow and move through the career, and in some cases stay involved and active in my career. So it's a wonderful, networking opportunity. So tell us a little bit about the programming that we've done historically, the speakers, guests who have joined us for Bagels and Business.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a great list. Like I said, we started with David Trone. We had brought in Mark Duber and Adam Bernstein from Bernstein Companies to talk all about the evolution of the Marriott headquarters, kind of pulling on all the real estate connections. We had Daniel Cantor Jeweler, who's one of the only MBA, I think the only female, MBA agent. Seth Goldman from Honest Tea, Karen Zuckerman, she had just sold HZDG, talking about her role in the kind of design and marketing space. Bruce Levinson, we had Dennis Ratner, the hair cuttery companies. Stephen Fleischman from Bethesda Bagels, who came kind of right before the pandemic. And then our first virtual Bagels and Business was Jamie Ratner from Certificate. So we've kind of hit on a variety of industries, a variety of personalities, and kind of a number of different Jewish networks, I would say, throughout the event.
Excellent. And tell me a little bit about we bring these guests to Bagels and Business. Tell me a little bit more about the networking piece and how that works.
Yeah. So in the old days, we would have these were morning events. We had about half hour, 45 minutes for people to come early to network. Bagels, of course. And I think over the time, we've actually improved on the networking component. We noticed that, I would say one of the things I touched on the earlier question, we initially thought this would be really attracted to younger professionals. It really was. It didn't. We ended up pivoting and realizing it didn't really need to be so targeted. It was really striking a chord with the entire business community, and so just as a networking opportunity. So we did over time, though, kind of improve the networking. We noticed it was like a lot of networking events. It was kind of hard for someone coming at the first time. They didn't know anyone, and you're also like, do you hold your bagel? What do you do? You've got your coffee, and I need to meet new people. So anyway, we started asking board members who were there to identify people. We had identified people who had come for the first time with a little sticker on their tag, to make sure that they felt at home. And then we just continued to push out the promotion to different networks. And then we also had that kind of repeat, once people started coming, it was just kind of something they would always come to. So our attendance definitely increased. And then we would have the event that we always had really strong Q&A, and usually people would linger for 15 minutes, half hour afterwards. also as a way to kind of avoid any traffic they'd probably be facing getting into the office. So I think it was a really good, it has been just a really good combination of networking, but also kind of education from, for the people in the audience about, a lot of these have been, most of them have been, entrepreneurs. And so, kind of focusing not just on launching their business, how they've run their business themselves as managers, as leaders, kind of questions about pivots they've had, struggles they've had, a lot of personal stories. Michelle Freeman, I forgot to mention her. She had kind of shared her very, some of her trying moments in her life. So I think people have been able to really emotionally connect with the speakers, but also be able to make some nice, connections with people in attendance, and then start seeing the same people at the events every time.
Absolutely. And, it's so interesting to hear about the evolution of Bagels and Business, which sounds like started with just a small group of people with an idea, and over time has evolved into something that really has, impact on a large group of people. And of course, in the evolution of Bagels and Business, I'm sure no one could ever have imagined the pivot that we'd be making this year. So tell us a little bit about what it was like to sort of like be running, to be the chair of the program, and trying to conceive of how to keep the energy going through the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything. I mean, I feel like we had just really hit our stride. I mean, even though we've had, I think, it had 10 events, so up until the lockdown, but we really kind of had made those pivots. We were really filling the room. Like I said, people had come to 3-4 events. And we had Jamie Ratner from Certificate, scheduled for an April event, which we quickly had canceled. And then it really wasn't until, this fall, I guess, that we started thinking that there would be enough interest in doing it virtual. I think now it seems kind of obvious because we've all been going to so many virtual events, but we just didn't know if it would translate, because so much of it was about being in person and eating bagels. And so we took a chance and said, look, so many people wait a minute, maybe we'll actually, people will be so thirsty for engagement and, want to see this event come back. And 2, maybe we'll get some other people to come who can't usually get to the JCC at 8 o'clock on a weekday morning. And so both of those hypotheses turned out to be correct. Last time we had great attendance. We did get people who said, I commute to Tyson's or Virginia, or I need to be wherever I need to be and can't wait to get on the Beltway, and we're able to attend. So a lot of people were happy that we had a reason to go virtual.
Yeah, no, it's really amazing to think about the ways that we've adapted. Certainly, we hear this in many circles, but the vendor JCC, our programming has adapted over time. And it's also interesting to begin to think about, when we get back to some sense of normalcy, what components of what we did this year will we carry forward. I had a conversation yesterday with a woman who wants to join the JCC, who lives far away and is engaging through our virtual programming, right? So I think without the emphasis of our virtual programming this year, there are people who we would never have engaged. And so it's right. I'm thinking about Bagels and Business. Maybe 8 a.m. is hard for some people, but is there a hybrid model where you can enable people to engage, but also people who want to come in person can? And one of the questions moving forward.
Yeah, and I thought it was actually, and going back to the networking, so on the virtual events, we've been using the breakout rooms in Zoom, and we flopped the programs. We have the speaker, and then we had the networking at the end, and Jamie Ratner kind of moved around and talked to different people. And we found that in the networking component, I actually thought that it's interesting. Parts of it were easier because you were kind of forced everybody. We had 5 people in a breakout room, asked everyone to introduce themselves. It doesn't always happen when you're in person. People are not sometimes feel a little bit more hesitant to walk up to a group of 5 people. And we did have some. It was funny. I think we actually ended up getting more younger professionals on the call, on the virtual call, than we had actually at some of the in-person events, which I thought was, you know, pretty interesting too, just because of, like you said, timing and location. So yeah, I agree with you. It's like, we're going to be so excited to go back to some things in person when we can, but I do think there's going to be this new part of this virtual, you know, component to our worlds that we'll have to balance.
Absolutely. So there's, of course, an upcoming Bagels and Business, an exciting guest speaker coming up. Tell us a little about what's coming up on February 11th.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about our next event, which will feature Brian Rosen, who is a senior vice president at Novavax, actually on the business side of Novavax. So he's not a scientist by training, but this is kind of where the committee was really kind of fun to see the committee come together, because who you have on a virtual event actually, I think, drives like we felt like certain, well, a couple of things. Some people might not want to do a virtual event. Some people want to kind of use for, you know, might not feel comfortable with the platform, or might feel like, anyway. So we kind of went back and forth on, you know, what the ideal, you know, kind of candidate would be to invite to speak. And we all had brainstormed that we should do something around biotech, because Montgomery County is, you know, a biotech hub, specifically in vaccines and immunology, that a lot of people really don't know about, but are starting to learn more about, because they're reading so much press about some of the local companies that have been involved in vaccine development, specifically Novavax. And at the time that we had reached out to Brian, they were still you know, a couple months away from releasing any clinical trials, and we weren't exactly sure what they would release, you know, what information we would know by the time of this event. But what I'm really excited that Brian's gonna be able to join us to be able to talk about what just kind of general what goes going on in the biotech space in Montgomery County. I should say, I think it ties in when we kind of our earlier part of our conversation about why we were doing this event. It was also because we felt like we could be contributing to the kind of that business activity in Montgomery County. And we wanted to do more to kind of convene communities, because more of that generally needs to be happening in Montgomery County. So the fact that we could bring something, we thought it'd be really great to be able to highlight, you know, Novavax, and, you know, their role in Operation Warp Speed, and also just kind of be highlighting all the activity, you know, here in Montgomery County. So Brian, you know, will kind of walk through kind of his, you know, his career path. It's always, we try to focus on Bagels and Business kind of on the person as well as the business. So he's had a really interesting career path in getting into the immunization space and working in biotech. And then he'll, you know, talk about, you know, a lot about what's been going on with the vaccine, with the development, Operation Warp Speed grants, with the kind of where they are with their current vaccine. And then I imagine there'll be lots of questions from the audience.
Absolutely, and of course, so we hear a lot about vaccines through the medical perspective. It's interesting to hear it from a business perspective, such a relevant and timely topic right now, as everyone's trying to process information daily about the vaccination process.
Yeah. But I'm sure, as Brian will mention, Novavax is not involved in the rollout of the vaccine right now. So,
right. Exactly. Yes.
So, yeah. But it is exciting. It's a great local story, and hopefully will be, you know, what's happening with Novavax and other companies here will be just the start of a lot of growth ahead in this industry for the county.
Absolutely. And will there be like that networking opportunity in this Bagels and Business?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll be doing similar to the last virtual event. We'll have networking after my moderating session with Brian. And I believe you can send in questions ahead of time if people do have questions that they want to make sure we get asked.
Excellent. And if someone wants more information on how to register and sign up, what's the best thing for them?
You can go to the Bender JCC website, and it's a free registration, or if you get any of the Bender JCC emails or wherever you found out about watching this JChat, you probably also could learn about our Bagels and Business event.
Excellent. Excellent. Elana, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. I know we wanted to do a quick shout out to some of our sponsors who really support this program and this great resource for our community.
Yes, I did. I wanted to thank, NFP, the Meltzer Group, the Bender Foundation, of course, Blake Real Estate, and then also Snyder Cohen CPAs. Thank you for continuing to support this great event. And also, of course, to all of our attendees, that we are appreciative that they continue to engage.
Well, Elana, first of all, I just want to say thank you for your leadership on the board and co-chairing Bagels and Business, everything you're doing to contribute to our community. And of course, thank you for joining me on JChats this morning. It was really a delight to have you.
Absolutely, Josh, and thank you for everything you're doing. We're really excited to have you as part of our community.
So I feel very fortunate to be here. So, well, thank you to the Bender JCC community for joining us for another JChats, which is a weekly broadcast every Wednesday at 10:30. We're here with Elana Fine today, and we wish all of you health, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.